The Galactic Concord had watched Earth for a very long time. Their satellites hid behind asteroids. Their probes floated in the cold darkness between planets. For 300 years, they studied the small blue world and the strange creatures living on it. Humans were interesting. They fought each other constantly. They built weapons that could destroy their own cities. They polluted their oceans and cut down their forests. And yet somehow, they also created beautiful music. They wrote poetry about love and loss. They sent tiny robots to other planets just to take pictures of rocks. The Concord did not understand humans, but they watched them anyway. Ambassador Vela of the Serani Federation was 212 years old. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were large and black like polished stones. She had spent her entire life studying primitive species and helping them join galactic society. She was patient. She was wise. She believed that all creatures deserved kindness. When humans finally discovered faster-than-light travel, Vela was not surprised. She had seen it coming for decades. The humans were clever. Too clever, perhaps. They learned things quickly and never stopped asking questions. "It is time," she told the Concord Council. "We must make contact." The Council agreed. They would send a diplomatic ship to meet the humans. They would offer trade routes and technology. They would give humanity a small seat at the edge of galactic politics. Nothing important, nothing powerful, just enough to keep them quiet and grateful. Delegate Torin from the Kelos hierarchy joined the mission. He was a reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes. Unlike Vela, he did not trust humans. He had spent 40 years studying their broadcasts, their history, their wars. "They are dangerous," Torin warned as their ship, the Whisper of Stars, prepared for departure. "They kill each other over small pieces of land. They invent new ways to cause suffering. They dropped nuclear bombs on their own kind." Vela nodded slowly. "Yes, they have done terrible things, but they have also done wonderful things. They are young, Torin. All young species make mistakes." "Mistakes?" Torin hissed. "They nearly destroyed themselves 3 times in 1 century. That is not a mistake. That is a pattern." "Then we will guide them," Vela said calmly. "We will show them a better way." The Whisper of Stars was beautiful. It was made of white crystal and silver metal. It glowed softly in the darkness of space, like a gentle star floating through the void. The ship had no weapons. It carried no soldiers. It was designed to show primitive species that the Concord came in peace. The message was sent to Earth through every channel the Concord knew. It was simple and clear. "A diplomatic vessel will arrive at neutral coordinates. Send your representatives. Bring no weapons." On Earth, the message arrived at midnight. Admiral Do-Yun Kang was sleeping when his communicator buzzed. He woke instantly, as he always did. 30 years in the military had trained him to sleep, light, and wake fast. He read the message twice, then got out of bed. Do-Hyun was 53 years old. His hair was gray, and a long scar ran down the left side of his face. He had fought in 3 interplanetary conflicts before anyone knew aliens existed. He had seen friends die. He had made hard choices. He had learned that the universe did not care about fairness or justice. It only cared about strength. He called Captain Yuna Park. Yuna answered on the second ring. She was already awake, already reading the same message. She was 31 years old, with sharp eyes and black hair cut short. People called her the Ice Captain because she never showed emotion in battle. She calculated, she planned, and she won. "They want us unarmed," Yuna said. Her voice was flat. "Yes, that is foolish." Do-Hyun smiled. It was a rare expression on his weathered face. "Very foolish. What do we do?" "We go to the council. We make them understand." The United Terran Council met the next morning. Presidents and prime ministers gathered in a great hall, their faces tense with fear and excitement. First contact. The moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. And now, it was here. The debate lasted 7 hours. Some wanted to send a small shuttle with diplomats in nice suits. They wanted to appear humble, peaceful, harmless. They wanted to make a good impression. Others were afraid. What if it was a trap? What if the aliens wanted to conquer Earth? What if they were walking into their own destruction? Admiral Do-yun stood before them and spoke. "We know nothing about these creatures," he said. "We do not know their intentions. We do not know their strength. We do not know if they are kind or cruel, honest or deceitful." He paused, letting his words settle. "But we know one thing. We know ourselves." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared behind him. It showed a massive ship 12 kilometers long, covered in weapons and armor. It was black and gold, shaped like a blade cutting through darkness. "This is the HFY," Do-yun continued. "Titan-class dreadnought, the most powerful warship humanity has ever built. 60,000 soldiers, 200 fighter squadrons, enough firepower to crack a moon." He looked at the council members one by one. "They told us to bring no weapons. They did not tell us what ship to bring." The room was silent. Captain Yuna stepped forward. "We are not starting a war. We are preventing one. Throughout galactic history, weak species are conquered. Strong species are respected. We must show them what humanity is capable of." An old woman raised her hand. She was the president of the European Federation, gray-haired and serious. "And if they see this as a threat? If they attack us?" Do-yun's voice was steady. "Then they were always going to attack us. Better to learn that truth with a warship at our back than a shuttle at our mercy." The vote passed. Humanity would send the HFY. Commander Ha-Jun Lee was 28 years old. He was brilliant with technology and systems. He had designed half of the HFY's intimidation protocols himself. When he heard the news, he laughed out loud. "They asked for diplomats," he said to his team. "They are getting a god." Chief Diplomat Suman Cho was different. She was 40 years old, with kind eyes and a warm smile. She had spent her career building bridges between nations. She believed in peace. She believed in understanding. But she also believed in being prepared. "We are not going to threaten them," she told Admiral Do-hyun before departure. "We are going to talk. The ship is insurance, nothing more." Do-hyun nodded. "Of course. But insurance only works if the other side knows you have it." The HFY launched from Earth orbit 3 days later. Its engines burned bright blue, pushing the massive ship into hyperspace. On its hull, words were written in 100 Earth languages. Peace through strength. In the whisper of stars, Ambassador Vela waited patiently. She had prepared welcome speeches. She had studied human customs. She had chosen gifts that she hoped they would appreciate. She had no idea what was coming. The neutral coordinates were in a dead system. There was no life here. No planets worth visiting. Just a dying red sun and a field of broken asteroids floating in eternal silence. The Conquered had chosen this place because it was empty, because it was safe, because nothing important could happen here. Ambassador Vela stood at the observation deck of the Whisper of Stars. Her hands were clasped behind her back. Her large black eyes watched the darkness outside, searching for the first sign of the human vessel. "They are late," Delegate Torrens said. He stood beside her, his tail swishing nervously against the floor. "Perhaps they are not coming." "They are coming," Vela replied. "Humans are many things, but they are not cowards. They will come." "And what will they bring? A small shuttle? A transport ship?" Torren made a sound that might have been laughter. "They are a young species. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are slow and weak. Whatever they bring, it will not impress us." Vela did not answer. Something was bothering her, a feeling she could not name. In 200 years of diplomacy, she had learned to trust her instincts. And right now, her instincts were telling her that something was wrong. The ship's sensors began to beep. "Contact detected," the pilot announced. "Human vessel dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds. Vela straightened her robes. She prepared her warmest smile. She was ready to welcome humanity to the galactic community. She was ready to offer them guidance and friendship. She was ready to be patient and kind, as she had been with so many young species before. She was not ready for what happened next. The Hate did not arrive. It announced itself. Space itself seemed to shudder. The stars flickered and bent. A crack appeared in reality, glowing white and blue. And from that crack emerged something impossible, something enormous, something that blocked out the dying sun and cast a shadow across the entire asteroid field. The ship was 12 kilometers long. Its hull was black iron and gold plating. Weapons covered every surface. Rail cannons the size of buildings, missile batteries that could launch 1,000 warheads at once, point defense turrets that tracked everything that moved. The ship looked like a blade, like a fist, like a promise of violence written in metal and fire. Along its spine, words were painted in languages Vela did not recognize. Peace through strength. Torin's scales turned pale. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Vela's translator device began screaming warnings. "Weapon signatures detected, multiple weapon signatures, shields active, combat systems online. Admiral, they have brought a warship. They have brought a warship to negotiations." In the Hayate's bridge, Admiral Do-Yun Kong sat in his command chair and watched the alien vessel on the main screen. It was small, beautiful, perhaps, but small, like a toy compared to his ship, like a candle compared to a sun. "They are scanning us," Commander Hajun Lee reported. His fingers moved across his console, monitoring every signal from the alien ship. "Their systems are advanced, but their weapons are minimal. That ship has almost no offensive capability." "Let them scan," Do-Yun said calmly. "I want them to see everything." Captain Yuna Park raised an eyebrow. "Everything, Admiral?" "Everything. Open our specifications. Shield strength, weapon yields, troop capacity, fighter squadrons, nuclear arsenal." Do-Yun's voice was steady. "Let them understand what they are looking at." Yuna nodded and gave the order. The Hate began broadcasting its full military specifications on every frequency. The data flowed into space like a wave, washing over the whisper of stars and everyone inside it. Ambassador Vela read the numbers on her screen. She read them again. Then she sat down heavily, her legs suddenly weak. 60,000 soldiers, 200 fighter squadrons, 12,000 nuclear warheads, shield generators that could withstand a supernova, engines that could push the ship to speeds that should have been impossible. "This cannot be real," Torin whispered. "This cannot be real. They are a primitive species. They discovered hyperspace travel only 2 years ago. How can they have built this?" Vela's voice was barely audible. "Because they have been building for war their entire existence. While we explored the stars in peace, they fought each other for every inch of ground. They perfected the art of destruction. They turned violence into science." She looked at the Hate through the viewport, and for the first time in her long life she felt small. "We thought we were meeting children. We were wrong." On the Hate, Chief Diplomat Sumin Cho stood beside Admiral Do-Hyun and watched the alien ship float in silence. She could imagine the fear inside it, the confusion, the sudden understanding that everything they had expected was wrong. "They stopped scanning," Hajun reported. "I think they have seen enough." "Good." Do-Hyun stood up from his chair. His uniform was perfectly pressed. His medals shone in the bridge lights. He looked like what he was, a man who had spent his entire life preparing for exactly this moment. "Send them a message. Tell them we are ready to talk." Sumin touched his arm gently. "Remember, Admiral, We are here to make peace. The ship is a tool, nothing more. Do-hyun looked at her. His eyes were calm, almost kind. Peace is made between equals, Sumin. Before today, they did not see us as equals. Now they do. He gestured at the viewport, at the tiny alien ship floating in the shadow of the Hedi. That is the first step. The talking comes after. The message was sent. Simple words transmitted across the void. Humanity greets the Galactic Concord. We accept your invitation. We are prepared to negotiate. In the whisper of stars, Vela read the message. Her translator device was still beeping with warnings. Her crew was still panicking. Torin was still staring at the human ship like a creature caught in headlights. But Vela was old. She was experienced. She had seen many things in her long life, and she knew that fear was useless. The humans had made their statement. Now she had to respond. She sent a message back. We welcome humanity. We propose a meeting on neutral ground, a station between our vessels. Is this acceptable? The reply came quickly. Acceptable. We will arrive in 1 hour. Vela closed her eyes. She had spent decades preparing for this moment. She had imagined it so many times, a gentle meeting between species, an exchange of knowledge and culture, the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Instead, she had received a warning, a demonstration. A promise that humanity would not be treated like the other primitive species the Concord had encountered. They had not come to beg. They had not come to receive scraps from the galactic table. They had come to demand a seat. Prepare the station, Vela ordered her crew. Her voice was steady now, professional. Clear a conference room, set up translation systems, and... She paused, looking once more at the Haite through the viewport. And tell the Concord Council that everything we thought we knew about humanity was wrong. Torin moved beside her. His voice was low and afraid. What do we do now? Vela took a deep breath. We negotiate. We listen. We try to understand what they want. She turned away from the viewport, her robes swishing softly. And we pray that they want peace. Because if they want war, Torin, I do not think we can stop them. The hour passed slowly. The neutral station was constructed from materials both ships provided. And when the time came, humanity walked through the doors with weapons in their hands and steel in their eyes. The galaxy would never be the same. The neutral station floated in the space between the two ships. It was small, built quickly from materials provided by both sides. Human steel and alien crystal joined together in an ugly patchwork. But it worked. It had air. It had gravity. It had a room where two species could meet and talk. Ambassador Vela arrived first. She brought Torin and 2 assistants. They wore formal robes in soft colors. They carried no weapons. They set up chairs around a circular table and waited. Then the humans arrived. Admiral Do-hyun Kang walked through the door first. Behind him came 12 soldiers in powered exoskeletons. Each suit was 3 meters tall, made of dark metal and glowing blue lights. Each soldier carried a rifle that hummed with energy. They moved in perfect formation, their heavy boots shaking the floor. Vela forced herself to remain calm. She had dealt with aggressive species before. She had faced threats and bluffs. She would not show fear. Behind the soldiers came Captain Yuna Park. Her uniform was dark gray, perfectly fitted. Her eyes scanned the room once, twice, 3 times. She was looking for danger, looking for threats, looking for anything that might hurt her people. And finally, Chief Diplomat Sumin Cho entered. She was different from the others. Her smile was warm. Her eyes were kind. She walked with the easy grace of someone who had spent years making strangers feel comfortable. Ambassador Vela, Sumin said, bowing slightly. Thank you for meeting with us. Earth is honored by the Concord's invitation. Vela nodded, grateful that at least one human seemed peaceful. We are pleased you accepted. Please sit. Let us talk. The soldiers did not sit. They took positions around the room, their weapons held ready. Admiral Do-hyun sat at the table, his scarred face expressionless. Captain Yuna stood behind him, watching everything with her cold eyes. Only Suman sat normally, her hands folded gently on the table. Torin could not contain himself. His scales rippled with anger. You brought weapons to peace talks. You brought soldiers to diplomacy. This is an insult to the conquered. Suman's smile did not fade. We brought protection. The galaxy is dangerous. Surely you understand. Your own records show 12 species were conquered after their first contact. She tilted her head slightly. They came unarmed. They came trusting. They died or became slaves. Her voice was still warm, still friendly. We chose differently. Vela raised a hand to calm Torin. Let us move forward. The Concord is prepared to offer humanity trade routes through Sector 7. Mining rights to 3 asteroid belts, access to basic galactic technology. This is a generous offer for a new species. Silence. Admiral Do-hyun spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and calm. We want Sector 4. Vela blinked. She was sure she had heard wrong. Sector 4? Yes. Sector 4 contains the richest resource belts in the quadrant. It has been controlled by the conquered for 10,000 years. No newcomer species has ever been granted access to Sector 4. Vela's voice was careful, measured. What you ask is unprecedented. Captain Yuna's voice came from behind Do-hyun, quiet but sharp. So is our ship. Torin stood up suddenly. His claws scraped against the table. This is ridiculous. You arrive with weapons pointed at our heads and demand the most valuable territory in the quadrant? Who do you think you are? Admiral Do-hyun looked at Torin. His eyes were steady, unafraid. We are humanity, and we do not accept scraps from anyone's table. The room was very quiet. The soldiers stood motionless. The aliens stared at the humans. The humans stared back. Suman broke the silence with her gentle voice. Perhaps we should explain our position more clearly. She pulled a small device from her pocket and placed it on the table. A hologram appeared, showing a star map. The Concord controls most of the known galaxy. You have trade routes, military bases, and political alliances spanning thousands of systems. Humanity controls one planet, one solar system. We are small. We are young. We are surrounded by powers that could crush us without effort. She moved her hand, and the map shifted to show Earth, a tiny blue dot in a vast ocean of stars. In this situation, a weak species would beg for protection. They would accept whatever scraps were offered. They would be grateful for any attention at all. Suman smiled softly. But humanity is not weak. We have spent our entire history fighting for survival, against nature, against each other, against everything that tried to destroy us. We have learned that no one gives power freely. It must be taken. Admiral Do-hyun continued where she stopped. We built the Hayate in secret. We spent 20 years and half our planet's resources creating a ship that could stand against anything in the galaxy. We did this because we knew this moment would come. We knew that someday we would meet beings more advanced than us. And we knew that those beings would try to control us. He leaned forward, his scarred face catching the light. We will not be controlled. We will not be grateful for leftovers. We come to you as equals, Ambassador. Not as children asking for permission. Not as servants hoping for kindness. His voice hardened. Sector 4. Full voting rights in the Concord. A mutual non-aggression treaty that treats both sides as sovereign powers. That is what we want. That is what we will accept. Vela's mind raced. In 200 years of diplomacy, she had never encountered anything like this. New species were always humble, always grateful, always eager to please their new masters. These humans were something else entirely. "And if we refuse?" she asked quietly. Admiral Do-hyun did not blink. "Then we leave. We return to Earth. We build more ships like the Hite. We strengthen our defenses. We wait." He paused. "And when the Concorde finally decides to come for us, we will be ready." "You would start a war over this?" "No." Do-hyun shook his head slowly. "We would prevent one. A war between the Concorde and humanity would be costly for both sides. Millions would die. Worlds would burn. Resources would be wasted." He gestured at the window, at the Hade floating in the darkness. "That ship is not a threat, Ambassador. It is a promise. A promise that war with humanity will be expensive. Too expensive. We are offering you the chance to avoid that war, to make peace instead." So-Omen nodded gently. "We do not want to fight. We want to trade. We want to learn. We want to be part of the galactic community." Her eyes met Vela's. "But we will not enter that community on our knees. We will not pretend to be less than we are. And we will not trust our future to anyone's kindness." Torin's voice was harsh. "You speak of peace while pointing guns at our heads." Captain Yuna answered him. Her voice was cold as ice. "We speak of reality. The galaxy is not kind, delegate. The strong survive. The weak serve or die. We learned that lesson from your own history." She pulled out a small data chip and tossed it on the table. 12 conquered species, 18 slave races, 4 civilizations destroyed completely. All of them trusted the Concorde. All of them came unarmed to their first meetings. She leaned closer, her eyes fixed on Torin. "We read your files. We know what happens to the weak, and we decided that we would never, ever be weak again." The negotiations continued for 6 more hours. Arguments were made, voices were raised, threats were exchanged, both subtle and direct. But through it all, the Haite hung in space outside, its weapons silent but ready, a reminder, a warning, a truth that could not be ignored. Humanity had arrived, and they had no intention of leaving quietly. The negotiations had stopped. 3 days passed with no progress. The Concorde refused humanity's demands. Humanity refused to lower them. The 2 ships floated in the dead system, watching each other across the void. Inside the whisper of stars, Ambassador Vela sent message after message to the Concorde Council. She described the human ship. She shared the weapons data. She warned them that these creatures were not like any species they had met before. The Council did not believe her at first. How could a species so young build something so powerful? How could primitives, who had barely learned to travel between stars, create a weapon that could challenge the Concorde itself? But Vela sent them the proof. She sent them the images and the numbers. She sent them recordings of the negotiations, of the cold eyes and steady voices of the human delegates. And slowly, the Council began to understand. They were afraid. On the 4th day, Delegate Torin requested a private meeting with Admiral Do-hyun. No soldiers, no diplomats, just the 2 of them, alone in a small room on the neutral station. Do-hyun agreed. They met in the late evening, when the lights in the station had been dimmed to simulate night. Torin was waiting when Do-hyun arrived. The reptilian alien sat in a simple chair, his yellow eyes watching the human carefully. "Thank you for coming," Torin said. His translator device made his voice sound flat and mechanical. "I wanted to speak with you without the others present." Do-hyun sat across from him. "What do you want to know?" Torin was silent for a long moment. His claws tapped against his leg. His tail moved restlessly behind him. Finally, he spoke. "You confuse me, Admiral. Your species is young. You have no allies, no experience with galactic politics. You have never fought a war beyond your own system." His eyes narrowed. and yet you arrive here with a weapon of destruction and demand respect as if you have already earned it. Why are you not afraid? Do-Yun considered the question carefully. He looked at Torin, at the alien creature who had spent decades studying humanity from afar. This was not a threat or a negotiation tactic. This was genuine curiosity, genuine confusion. "May I tell you a story?" Do-Yun asked. Torin nodded slowly. 200 years ago, my ancestors lived in a land called Korea. It was a small nation, caught between larger powers. For centuries, my people were invaded, conquered, occupied. Their language was forbidden. Their culture was nearly destroyed. Do-Hyun's voice was calm. But there was something heavy beneath it. Old pain, old anger, old determination. They survived, they endured, and when they finally regained their freedom, they made a promise. Never again would they be weak. Never again would they let others decide their fate. He looked at Torin with steady eyes. That promise is written into everything my people have built since then. Our cities, our technology, our military. We do not conquer others, delegate, but we will never be conquered ourselves. Torin listened in silence. When we learned that aliens existed, Do-Hyun continued, we did not celebrate. We did not dream of friendship and cooperation. We looked at the galaxy and saw what it truly was. Dangerous, competitive, full of species that had built empires by conquering the weak. He gestured toward the window, toward the invisible stars beyond. We saw your records, the species that were enslaved, the civilizations that were erased, the young races that trusted their new friends and paid for that trust with their freedom. He leaned forward slightly. We looked at all of that, delegate. We studied it. We learned from it. And we decided that we would not be another name on that list. We would not be a footnote in galactic history. We would not kneel to anyone. Torin's translator crackled softly. So you built a warship. We built many things. Schools, hospitals, farms, cities, art, music. A civilization worth protecting. Do-Hyun's voice softened slightly. The Haite is not who we are, delegate. It is simply what we built to keep who we are safe. The room was very quiet. Outside, the two ships floated in darkness. Inside, two creatures from different worlds tried to understand each other. We have a word in my language, Torin said slowly. It means something like stubborn pride. It is usually considered a weakness, a flaw that leads species to destruction. We have a similar word. Several, actually. Do-Hyun smiled slightly. But we also have a word for the opposite, for species that surrender their pride, that give up their identity to survive, that become servants instead of equals. His smile faded. We call them extinct. Torin made a sound that might have been laughter. You are very strange creatures, humans. Yes, we are. The Council is afraid of you. Good. Fear prevents wars. And if fear turns to hatred, if the Concord decides that humanity is too dangerous to exist, if they unite against you, Do-Yun did not look away. Then we will fight, and we will lose probably. Your Concord is vast, your resources are endless. Against the full might of galactic civilization, one species cannot survive. He paused. But we will make that victory costly, delegate. We will burn worlds before we fall. We will destroy fleets before we are defeated. We will make sure that anyone who attacks humanity remembers the price they paid. His voice was quiet but filled with iron. And perhaps after we are gone, other young species will look at our example. They will see what we built, what we fought for, what we died for, and maybe they will find the courage to stand up too. He met Torin's eyes. That is the human way, delegate. We do not surrender. We do not kneel. And even in death, we resist. Torin was silent for a long time. His yellow eyes studied the human before him. This scarred old soldier who spoke of destruction and extinction with the calm voice of someone discussing the weather. "I believe you," Torrin said finally. "I believe that you would burn the galaxy before you would serve it." "Yes. That is terrifying, Admiral." "It is meant to be." Torrin stood slowly. His scales shifted in the dim light. "I will speak to Ambassador Vela. I will recommend that we accept your terms." He paused at the door. "Not because I agree with your methods, not because I think you are right, but because I have studied your species for 40 years, Admiral. I know what you are capable of." Doyun stood as well. "What are we capable of?" Torrin's translator buzzed softly. "Anything, everything. You are a species without limits, without boundaries. You will achieve whatever you decide to achieve, destroy whatever stands in your way." His yellow eyes glowed in the darkness. "The Concord thought it was meeting primitives today. Instead, we met monsters. We prefer the term survivors." "Perhaps there is no difference." Torrin left the room. Doyun stood alone for a moment, looking out at the stars. He thought about his ancestors, about the wars they had fought, the suffering they had endured, the promise they had made. Never again. He thought about the future, about humanity spreading across the stars, about the challenges they would face, the enemies they would make, the choices they would have to live with. It would not be easy, it would not be clean, but it would be theirs. He walked back to the Hete, his steps steady in the artificial gravity. Behind him, the negotiations would resume tomorrow. The conquered would bend, humanity would rise, and the galaxy would learn to respect the monsters from the small blue world. The conquered yielded. It happened on the 5th day, in the same small room where they had argued for so long. Ambassador Vela sat across from Chief Diplomat Suman, a document floating between them on a holographic display. The words glowed softly in the dim light. Sector 4 access, full voting rights in the Concord, a mutual non-aggression treaty, recognition of Earth as a sovereign power, everything humanity had demanded. Vela's hands did not shake as she signed the document. Her voice did not break. But inside, she felt something she had not felt in 200 years of diplomacy. Defeat. "The Concord accepts your terms," she said quietly. "Humanity is now a full member of the galactic community. You have what you wanted." Soman nodded. Her warm smile was still in place, but her eyes showed something deeper. Understanding, perhaps, or sympathy. "Ambassador, I know this was difficult. I know we came here in a way that seemed aggressive, even threatening." She leaned forward slightly. "But please believe me when I say that we do not want to be your enemies. We want to be your partners." Vela looked at her. This kind woman with the soft voice and the gentle hands. This human who had walked beside soldiers and warships without flinching. "You say you want partnership," Vela said, "but you demanded it with weapons." "Yes, because we learned that asking nicely does not work." Suman's smile faded slightly. 12 species ask nicely, Ambassador. They are slaves now. Or dead. We did not want to join them. And so you chose to be feared instead of loved. We chose to survive. Love can come later. Fear keeps you alive long enough to earn it. The signing ceremony was brief. No celebration, no speeches, just documents exchanged and hands shaken. Admiral Do-Yun stood beside Captain Yuna as the treaty was finalized, his scarred face showing no emotion. Only Chief Diplomat Su-Min smiled, and even her smile was tired. Afterward, as the human delegation prepared to leave, Ambassador Vela approached Captain Yuna. The young captain was standing by the window, looking out at the Haite. The massive ship hung in space like a sleeping god, its weapons silent but visible. "Your people are terrifying," Vela said softly. Yuna turned to face her. "Are we?" In 2 centuries of diplomacy, I have never seen a species so ready for violence, so prepared for war, so willing to destroy. Vela's large black eyes searched Yuna's face. You came here expecting to fight, hoping for it, perhaps. Yuna considered the words carefully. She thought about the years of training, the simulations, the endless preparation for a conflict that might never come. We did not hope for war, Ambassador. We prepared for it. There is a difference. Is there? Yes. Yuna looked back at the Hete. A violent species attacks first. They seek conflict. They enjoy destruction. Her voice was calm and clear. A prepared species ensures they never have to attack. They build strength not to use it, but to make using it unnecessary. She gestured at the massive ship. That vessel has enough firepower to end civilizations. We built it hoping it would never fire a single shot. Vela did not fully understand, but she remembered those words. And if someday you have to fire those shots? Yuna's eyes were cold and steady. Then we will fire them, and we will mourn every life lost, and we will hate what we had to become. She turned to face the ambassador directly. That is what separates preparation from violence, Ambassador. We do not enjoy this. We simply refuse to be victims of it. The delegation returned to the Hete. Commander Hajun Lee was waiting in the hangar bay, a wide smile on his young face. It worked, he said as Admiral Do Yun walked past. We actually pulled it off. They gave us everything. Do Yun nodded but did not smile. Yes, they did. You do not seem happy, Admiral. I am not unhappy. I am realistic. Do Yun stopped and looked at the young officer. We won today's negotiation, Commander, but we also made enemies. The Concord will not forget what happened here. They will smile and trade and sign treaties, but they will remember the fear we made them feel. So what do? We prepare. We build. We grow stronger. Do Yun's voice was heavy with the weight of command. We make sure that when they decide to test us, we are ready. The Hete left orbit 3 hours later. Its engines burned bright against the darkness, pushing the massive ship toward home. Behind it, the whisper of stars remained at the neutral station, its crew still trying to understand what had happened. In her quarters, Chief Diplomat Sumin found Admiral Do Hyun standing at a window. The stars streaked past outside, turned into lines of light by the speed of their travel. We made enemies today, she said quietly. Do Yun did not turn around. We made them cautious. That is better than enemies. And what happens when caution turns to resentment? When they unite against us? Then we will face them. Do Hyun's reflection stared back at him from the glass. An old man, a tired man, a man who had carried the weight of his species on his shoulders for one impossible day. Humanity has faced worse odds, Sumin. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars that killed millions. We always find a way. Always. Always. He finally turned to face her. I do not know what the future holds. I do not know if we will be heroes or villains in the history books of the galaxy. But I know one thing for certain. What? We will survive, whatever comes. Whatever the cost, humanity will endure. His eyes, tired but determined, met hers. That is the promise we made. That is the promise we keep. Sumin was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed softly. Is that humanity's answer to everything? Just survive? No. Our answer is to thrive. The survival is just how we ensure it. The Hete continued toward Earth. Behind it, news of the treaty spread across the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humanity now spoke the name with fear. The Concord Council met in emergency sessions, debating what this new power meant for the balance of the galaxy. In the Serrani Federation, Ambassador Vela wrote her final report on the human species. She described their ships and their weapons. She described their cold eyes and steady voices. She described a people who had looked at a galaxy full of predators and decided to become predators themselves. At the end of her report, she wrote a warning. Do not underestimate them. Do not provoke them. Do not give them a reason to return with more ships and bigger weapons. They are young, but they learn fast. They are small, but they build quickly. They are alone, but they do not fear us. And that, perhaps, is the most dangerous thing of all. On Earth, the Hite arrived to celebration. Crowds gathered to watch the massive ship descend through the atmosphere. Children pointed at the sky. Parents wept with relief and pride. The world that had spent so long afraid of the stars now looked up at them with new hope. Admiral Doyon stood on the bridge as the ship settled into its dock. He looked at the world below. The cities and the forests, the oceans and the mountains, the small blue planet that had produced a species stubborn enough to challenge the entire galaxy. What happens now? Captain Yuna asked beside him. Do-hyun thought about the question. He thought about the future stretching out before them, the allies they would need to make, the enemies they would have to face, the choices that would define humanity for generations to come. Now we build more ships, he said quietly. Yuna raised an eyebrow. Is that always your answer? No. Do-hyun allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes my answer is to build bigger ships. She laughed despite herself. The Hate powered down. Its mission was complete. But somewhere in the galaxy, other species were watching, learning, planning. They had met humanity today. They had seen what one small planet could build, what one determined species could achieve. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the ancient powers of the galaxy felt something they had long forgotten. Fear. The age of human expansion had begun, and the universe would never be the same.